Okay. I am here with Bobby. Sir, full name?
Bobby Gogolin.
Bobby Gogolin. Do you have a nickname, sir?
Darkman.
Darkman. Now, what's the story behind Darkman?
Actually, when I first started playing scenario games, we were doing the Ben Dorselli and Wayne Dalek, Perlmutter games. Wayne Dalek was the lead of it. And the first role I had, I was a CIA agent in Laos. And the code name on the card said Darkman. So we played the game, and I said, "Would you help me pick out a nickname?" And he was like, "You're the Darkman. You're just going to be the Darkman."
It's a good one, actually. I do think it's well fitting. How many years did you play the game?
We got a little flustered on this the other day. I always felt like it was 83 when I got into it, 83, 84. But apparently, in my old age, it might be a couple years shy of that number. Just for argument's sake, let's go with 1985.
85, okay. What was your first experience playing paintball?
My first experience ever playing paintball was finding paintball markers at my uncle's farm. He had 2 pellet pistols for marking trees and marking cattle. And my cousin and I found them. We figured out how to get the CO2 in them. There was some old paint.
By the way, back then, that paint, that thick shell with the thick fill.
Yeah, that was oil-based paint at that point. Yeah. And he had all kinds. He had reds and yellows and blues and greens. And I said, "I'll go hide. You come find me." And that was my first paintball experience. We played in there in the barn for 3-4 hours. And I was maybe 12 at that time.
So where did it go from there? Did you go to a field? Did you?
Actually, a friend of mine, Wade Kearns, he told me about this paintball game that was going on up there, and he thought that'd be something that interested me. But what it turned out was it was some folks that owned a bar downtown, and they all caught wind of the survival sport, and they bought a bunch of the old Splatmasters, and some of the trickier guys had better guns, but it was just woods ball. There was no bunkers. They had one little section of the field where they had put up some plywood sheets to make like a little town. And I played there for 3-4 years, then went to another field over by Winchester when they got that one going. Ran into all kinds of folks in Winchester. Shout out to Mikey Schultz. He and I used to play together. He's big on a lot of the older gun sites or memorabilia sites. Yeah, he was a teammate too. So,
What was the name of that team?
ArcLight.
ArcLight.
Yeah.
How many teams were you on over your playing days?
Let's see, North Mountain Rangers, ArcLight, Point Fury, Dead Horse. 4.
Which team do you prefer being that mix of? That mixed with you properly, and which one was the best team?
Joint Fury.
Joint Fury, yeah.
Yeah, those guys. I just fit right in. When Joint Fury was started, Sparrow, me, and what we decided to do as far as scenarios, we pulled together specific teams that had specific tasks. We need a team that plays at night. You need to be on the field at dark. You don't come off until your night vision goes blurry or your vision starts.
Good job for Darkman.
No, actually, I didn't do that. I did intelligence work.
Yep.
I was big into role play, a lot of interactions on the fields, played with some tremendous people. I mean, it was, I don't know how to describe it other than to say it was probably one of the most fun times I've had in my life was when I was with JF. But we had teams that played at night. We had teams that did intelligence. We had teams that did assault. We had a team that did recon.
Yeah.
Good friend of mine. Anyway, let's skip that.
Thanks. Now, what do you love about scenario paintball?
I think it was summed up best by Max Extreme Sports when they say, be all you can be and somebody else. So for me, it was like, it's kind of like my little getaway. Instead of playing Dungeons and Dragons or other RPG games like that, hey, let's go out and actually do it.
Yeah.
So that was what it was for me.
But when it gets down to it, what do you hate about scenario paintball?
People that don't understand the rules or haven't taken time to read the rules, and at that point, that's the excuse. Oh, well, I didn't know that. Well, you signed a paper that said that you read them and you understand them. How do you not know it? Okay, you're a clown. Here's your judge punch. Go back to the dead zone. Think about what you did.
Now, I'll ask this question in a couple different ways. What was your favorite event as a player?
Probably my favorite event was Mansfield Lockdown, where we played. It was a Wayne Dollar game. We played at Reformatory at Mansfield. Same place where they did can't remember the name of the movie now, but they did a movie there.
I can't remember at the top of my head either. I actually, because I had said this to you earlier when we were talking, that I wanted to touch on this subject with Mansfield because it's a very interesting. I have a question that I like to ask is if you could travel back in time and play an event, what event would it be? And my answer seems to be Mansfield.
No.
Really?
No. That's the tallest freestanding prison in, as far as I know, in the United States. And it started out, I believe it started out as a boys' prison.
Yes.
And yeah, it was nothing to see somebody come sailing down off of the 5th floor.
Yeah.
So very violent.
Yeah, very violent.
Very violent place. Very violent place. Time to live in.
Well, but as I mean, like travel back to an event, I mean to be there for the Mansfield game.
Oh,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean by that question. Okay.
Okay, yeah. I'm thinking,
I don't want to spend the weekend in Mansfield Reformatory.
No.
Although I'm sure there are plenty of people who say I probably should have spent a couple years put away myself. So
heard that before. There are a lot of games that I have really enjoyed. I like to do the Stargate games.
Yep.
I'm very much into that. Alan Martin and I produced Firefly.
Fantastic one. I was a huge fan.
So I do like the sci-fi stuff. Alan likes the sci-fi stuff. He likes, the alien thing. That's why we introduced aliens into that game.
I wish I had picked up. I had seen the shirts that both of you were wearing. I went, oh, it's interesting. You're wearing the same shirts. And it didn't click on me to see where it was going. And that's actually a question I had for you is, what would have happened had one of us came up and said, hey, these eggs that we're collecting, these are xenomorph eggs. Was there something to do with that in that game? Or did it go down a line of
it was
missions or?
They were missions. According to the storyline, they were stumbled across, but nobody wanted to deal with them.
Yep.
So what we did, we had 3 of them placed in one chamber. It was locked. Couldn't get in. Couldn't take the eggs. And if you came back with the eggs, and it's like, okay, where's the key?
Yeah.
So that was extra bonus points. Plus, it held a DNA sequence that could be used to increase the intelligence of the Reaver population rather than just being mindless cannibals. They would actually be able to think for themselves. The general for that team, Lawrence Wright, he was one of the smart ones, and his field commanders were ones that could understand orders and take orders. The rest of them were just a route.
Yes.
That was the storyline. And there were two people that showed up that were looking for the DNA sequence. That was Doc John Allen and his son, John Allen Jr. And they were looking for it. Everybody was looking for it because the browncoats wanted to hold on to it so the Reavers couldn't get more intelligent. And the Reavers, of course, wanted it so they could make their troops be able to follow orders.
Yes, of course.
So, and the other guys, well, they were just there just to try to get their hands on it, keep it away from everybody.
Now, so we've answered the question of the favorite event while being a player, and you just actually wandered into one of my questions without me asking, which was favorite event you ever produced, and that Firefly was a pretty good one.
We started out in Houston with doing a couple of 12-hour games. We did a little pirate game down there, and it was a lot of fun and silliness kind of stuff. Nothing real serious that you would think. But when we got the opportunity to do Firefly, I was a huge fan of it. I proposed the game. Joe liked the idea. So Alan and I set to work, and I basically scripted missions, assigned points for this, that, the other, and Alan handled the tech and actually held my hand and walked me through some of it so I could get done what I needed to get done.
Well, that was the beta test, so
Yeah,
and it still performed very well. I actually was impressed with everything and has been a fan ever since that event. Now, the other question I had for you for this is your time as a ref. What is the favorite event you ever refed? Because it's a completely different side to an event. Being able to step back and you see what's happening and everything, and knowing a little bit what's going on with the story and the gameplay.
I guess I could pick out a few events that I was not happy with, but as to pick
well,
out,
that's actually another question I have next.
to pick out a lot of, to name a bunch of events that I enjoyed repping. I was with MXS for 5 years.
Yep.
So that's 50, 60 games.
Yep.
As a ref, I traveled with them. I went to every field. I trained every ref staff for every event. And that's, I loved every one of those. Like I said, there was a couple of them I didn't care for. But
which ones were those?
No, not going to go into that.
Okay.
No, all scenario is good. Even a bad weekend at a scenario game is still better than a good week at the office.
What tired scenario trope or gimmick are you sick
of? I'm not sure I understand the question.
That thing that maybe is a little too overdone or not done right, but they keep pushing it. Anything like that? The airstrike, one of those things.
Or strikes?
No, the airstrikes.
Airstrikes.
Like the airstrike when the ref comes on and goes, they're all airstrike,
Okay.
Like,
so you're talking about game mechanics.
Game mechanics or trope or one of those things. Is there anything like that you think is tired?
No, I really don't. You got to remember, everything that's being done has been done before in one form, and you're just bringing it back 15, 20 years later and going, hey, look at this cool shit you can do. And everybody's going,
yeah,
wow, I can stay out here for 10 minutes and get shot all I want, wear this cool armor, and I'm not taken out unless they hit me with a law rocket. I'm good. Let's go. It's bringing some of the excitement back into the game. And when you get the storyline mixed in where you're looking for props and you're looking for special options and you're buying and you're trading and you're wheeling and dealing, it becomes more than, hey, there's 500 red guys. We got 400 blue guys. Let's just go shoot the shit out of them.
My favorite aspect too.
That's a big game.
Yeah, no, that is just a big game, and we prefer a little extra. We want that extra dimensional. We want the 3-dimensional play of that idea, right?
Yeah.
I don't want a 2-dimensional sandboxy, table. We're just pushing the troops across the sandbox right at the other guys, right? What is the most standout mechanic you've ever seen at an event in terms of you read it or somebody told you what it was and you went, I've never heard of that before, or I've never heard it done that way before, and it really went, wow, okay, they knocked on something there that no one ever considered.
With the invention of the helicopters that has grown so much, I think that is probably one of the best ones that I had ever heard of. When I first heard about it, it was like, no, that's dumb as shit. And we put it to work, and by God, it worked. It took a while, but because in that time frame, you had a group of people that would follow a producer wherever they went. So they were all familiar with the rules and had used the mechanic enough that now that, they're trying things that, okay, we didn't think about you doing that. Maybe not. You did it this time, but
yeah, we'll have to. And well, a lot of scenario producers do have it in the aftermath. They go, I have to make a ruling. It's a dungeon manager mechanic, right? They go, I have to make the ruling, keep the game flowing, and then we'll figure out the rule later on,
yeah.
and publish it properly. How has paintball impacted your life?
I've spent probably close to 40 years in this sport in one way or the other, whether as a player or an advisor or even being a rep, just a rep sometimes, not even a lead rep, just a rep. I went to the PTI training school for the NPPL refs. I was taught by Bill Cookston, old school. I mean, you may not even recognize the name. It was
No, actually, I did not.
Yeah, PTI was a program set up through Bob McGuire, and Bud Orr was involved in it. So these guys, they brought you in to do classes. Well, they added a classification for referees, and they were looking for NPPL referees. So, good friend of mine, Kevin Chrisman, and myself, we went down and we went to the referee training class. And Bill hated us. He said when we did the reviews at the end, he goes, "You're definitely qualified to do what you're doing, but you got to stop the fucking clowning around. You're too goofy for NPPL. You need to pull it in." And it was like, no.
Oh, and it's not like it's the same way, Bobby. I've been told many times maybe you need to rein it in. And I go, maybe I'll let it loose a little bit more.
Yeah, no, it was like, okay, well, I got to be all serious for this. I don't want to be a dick. Let me go put this to use in scenario paintball and see where we can develop. And I had an amazing relationship with Diane and Patrick. We could literally write the game as the game was running. Yes. We could literally create the missions as the game was running because I was out on the field. Well, there ain't been nobody over in this section of the field for at least a couple hours, Diane. My ref's falling asleep. I'll send a mission, then a counter mission there right away. And there's the next mission that comes in. Or if she ran out of ideas, she would call me and say, hey, what ain't been blown up? What ain't been built?
Well, no, I've run games like that myself. It is a dynamic flow that it adds to a scenario, and it does get, especially if you have lower numbers, you can really help push them to where they need to go to fight one another in different ways that they're going to turn the field to their advantage or not. The way they're scheduled, right. Where their HQs are.
Well, daylight play is going to flow as any daylight play would. They're going to go where they need to go to get done what they need to get done. Maybe try to control an area. But when night play comes into effect, it's a whole nother world out there. And we would maybe get 35, 40 people on the side, started night play, and by midnight or so, there was maybe 8 people left on each side, or one side would just completely walk off the field and go, nope. We did that Joint Fury did that at a Wayne Dollar game. We blew the commander up so many times, he just said, I'm done for the night, and he walked off the field, and his team walked off the field with him. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was like, Wayne, we're still ready to play. We got 15 guys out here still ready to go. I'll send commissions if you want to run them. Okie-doke.
Sometimes it comes down to who is willing to put up with the weather, the conditions of their players, who can push themselves further past a little bit of the pain of the tiredness of it, or the injuries you get on the field from playing paintball, or just to keep the morale high enough to keep going. So there's a heck of a point there about that. About the resilient player often does come clutch in clutch play a game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Has the game ever taught you anything about life?
Yeah, don't trust anybody. Just don't trust anybody.
I think that
you get two families: the one you're born with and the one you pick. Just pick the right family.
Who do you consider to be a role model or a hero in the game?
To me,
Yes, as you were playing or coming up or over the years.
I have to say it was Dad. Wayne.
It was Wayne.
Yeah. After the third game, I just started calling him Dad. Damn. Yeah. Damn you, Dad.
I've never met the man. I was been told repeatedly that I would rather enjoy knowing him.
Wayne was the wizard when Scenario Paintball started to come out. Wayne was the wizard. I think the first game they ever did at night, I believe the name of it was Nighthawk. And they did it at Wayne's Field, and it was just a few players. And they were like, wow, this is so cool. We got to do more of this. And it started to develop from there. And that's when, because everybody was doing 8-hour, 10-hour, 12-hour games. And then all of a sudden, here comes Wayne with a 24-hour game.
Blew him out of the water.
Oh, yeah. And you could play the full 24 hours. There were no stand downs. There were no breaks. If the weather got really shitty and there wasn't anybody on the field.
You put a poncho on and you get out there.
Yeah, but let's just say not everybody's dedicated, and you really don't need a poncho that just squeaks and scratches.
What happened to the 24-hour game? What is it with the players these days?
I have absolutely no idea. I mean, it's not a cheap sport.
Absolutely not.
With. And, you got guys out here with $1,600, $1,700 guns. I run a Bob Long Vice, and I have 268 specials. And to me, that's all I need. My Vice is maybe worth $250, $300. I don't care. I'll go up against your $1,700 gun.
Oh, I'm exactly the same way. Yeah.
I've got a PGP. I'll go out and play with it sometimes. So, but when you start figuring all the expense that's associated with the sport, the hype about all this gear, all that gear, these guns, this paint, first strikes, all this other stuff, I think some of that gets blown out of the water, and people focus on that. And now, since I've got a $2,800, $3,000 outfit here, I can't afford to go fucking play.
It's kind of, it's a catch-22. Getting yourself into that trouble.
Yeah, so they can't.
Well, I often would say that to new players myself when I was managing a field. They go, I want to buy this and this. I said, hold on here. It's not what you need to do first. What you actually need to do is know that you're going to stick in the game and not run off as soon as you get hit one too many times or this or that before you go out and buy $2,000 worth of gear.
Right.
It'd be better to understand what's actually involved in playing these games.
Yeah, because what if you don't like it? Now you're stuck with $3,000 worth of stuff you're going to sell for $500.
Oh no, this stuff depreciates like a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone trying to start playing Scenario?
Know the rules. Number one thing. Get a copy of the rules. Read the rules. Know what you can do. Know what you can't do. Play within the rules. If you have a role, play the role. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm so-and-so. No, become that person. If the card says he's a dick, be a dick. If the card says he's a pushover, be a pushover. You know, take in the experience of the story, and you find that the paintball follows right along the storyline. So now you're not just going out and getting your mission and going to this place and doing that. Now you, as a character in the story, are taking people out to do certain things, and it I can't say anything more than it's a wonderful experience to just let everything go for 24 hours.
I remark that the benefit I get, other than when they read the score and our side wins, I get to laugh like an asshole. We all do enjoy when I do that. I sleep like a baby. Your mind turns off for that 24 hours or the time you're here, and when I go to bed, I sleep like a baby. And that's not something that's cheap anymore.
No.
Especially as you get older, right? So now, what advice would you give to somebody? And this is, I feel like you're going to maybe give me the same answer about knowing the rules, but the person who wants to get into the scenario scene, and by that I mean be that name brand, that TB, that character. What is advice for that? Because there are kids that come up and they see these big names on stage getting the awards and stuff like that. They're asking questions, and what's the advice for that person who wants to break into that?
Be willing to learn, introduce yourself. Hey, I'd like to learn how to do what you guys are doing. A lot of the older teams and even a lot of the newer teams are willing to take younger kids in and teach them how to play. And then when they think that they're ready to go in and handle a scenario, they'll take them to a scenario. The best thing I can say is if you're a young player or you're a new player and you want to learn how to do things, you've got to meet the people and ask them to help you. I want to know how to play this game. Give me something cool to do.
Well, that's why whenever a kid comes up, I was at Legends. I had to take over commanding halfway through one of the Legends, and a young man came up to me, and quite frankly, at that point we had gotten our asses handed to us all weekend, and I had no one who was willing to take up missions anymore. But this little guy said, "What can I do?" So I said, "Here's how you become a demo tech." I outfitted him with a demo tech card. I taught him how to do everything, and I said, "Here's your mission." And I sent him off to blow up a flag station on the other side of the field in enemy territory. I don't know if he ever made it, but that kid was determined to make it. And I think in that moment, maybe that kid became a lifer, or at the best you hope so that that they will continue on going. How much more can I learn if I was willing to learn that? Because his biggest smile marched off in a direction trying to find it. Who knows if he did? He never came back to me, but he in that moment felt like he was a part of it.
Yeah. And, that goes into generaling and getting your players involved. Thunderstruck was the scenario team is probably one of the best organized teams I've ever seen to do that. But people like Lawrence and Joe and Dave Cilio, Barry Reed, all these people were experts at taking all the new people. And it's like, okay, my name's Barry. You guys are going to follow me today. We're going to go do missions. And Warren would pop up. Lawrence would say, well, I'm in command center and who wants to learn how to do this? And by dividing their team instead of keeping their team together, they were able to accomplish great things. I mean, there was a game, and I don't remember the name of it, but Lawrence was generaling the game. He had Thunderstruck with him, and they wound up getting all the newer players on their side, and they were outnumbered. They were seriously outnumbered, and they almost won that game, which was an incredible feat. And the only thing you can attribute that to is the team's concept of being willing to split apart from each other and take 5 or 6 new people and maybe a couple of other people and literally go do a mission, become a mission team, go build one. And that's what they did. And they were very successful. They were very, very successful.
Well, that brings to the point of what you're saying, that like TB is willing to help others learn and grow, and he's actually not a big mean monster. Is that the truth?
Yeah, actually, I mean, what goes around comes around. If you're going to be a dick, then we're gonna get into a dick slinging contest.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to give a little, get a little, right? And some people don't get that they stepped on your foot first, and
Yeah, but it's there are certain things in this sport that were wrong. They haven't been talked about in years. Some of it still goes on. And
like what,
no,
Bobby?
I really am not going to get into that. That's not my place at this point. But you know, things like that, yeah, you can get caught up or, well, shit. If you're a pedophile and you're in paintball and you're messing around with a bunch of younger kids, you know, we're going to say something.
Well, it's one of those things that when I was managing the field, because we'd have a lot of kids come from Toronto or Buffalo, because it was on a resort's land. They would often drop their kids off at this field, and the parent, they would get into playing, and they were like, oh, we're gonna check out this field over here, this field over, and I'd have to take the parents aside. And I regularly would do, and I said, listen, you need to be aware that you should be aware who you're just leaving your kids with.
Yeah.
And they kind of went, oh. I said, it's a great sport. There's great people in here, but not everybody's here for the right. And you need to be on. It's just like anything else in life.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at the Olympic team.
Yes.
You know, pro sports, you know, there's always a bad egg somewhere. But the thing to remember is it doesn't spoil the entire match.
No, it doesn't. As long as your kids will getting in the scenario of being in a paintball field, your parents should be probably around, because there is certain things going on. There's some of that, as well as people or alcohol involved, things like that.
I don't think that, you know, if you're bringing a younger child with you to that game, even if it's not your kid and you're bringing him, it's your kid.
Yeah.
You know, so if the parents are involved with it, that makes it so much better. It's a bonding experience. You know, the kid will always remember playing paintball with his dad or his brother.
I have that experience with my dad. My dad was the one who taught me how to act like I did on the field, and he wasn't even a paintball player. We were out playing, and a birthday party showed up, and there was no one else to play with before this birthday party showed up. And my dad had taken me out to the field that I regularly would be at, and we'd go out, and it was one-on-one, and then we joined up with this birthday party because they said, hey, can we sling you guys all together to save time? I said, sure. And my dad rushed some of the other dads, and he didn't even have a painting gun, and surrendered. And I said, well, how do you do that? And I thought that I watched it, I went, oh, he just convinced them.
Yeah.
That he was ready to shoot them. And they went, oh, no, we're going to surrender. But he wasn't able to, right? So I kind of went, okay, there is a mental aspect to this game that I'm not witnessing that's outside of just pulling this trigger. And I learned that very early on. And then you get into articles and things like that. And you can really developing a skill set. What is the coolest scenario game that you've ever thought of a concept that you've just been sitting around, but you went, I could never pull that one off, but it's a cool idea?
I'd really like to do something like the Princess Bride.
The movie, The Princess Bride.
Yes. It's a funny game. It's a silly game. You know, there's lots of opportunities for role playing. And I've always just thought that this place was, you know, with everything that's out here, as much work as Joe's put into this field over 33 years, it's absolutely amazing to be out there. You can just picture doing even a Monty Python Holy Grail type game. You know, something along that line. I'd want to do something that, nobody's done yet.
Well, in that aspect, when you're looking at doing mechanics for a game, or you trying to come up with something cool, what is it, the chicken or the egg that came first? Like, do you come up with a cool rule or like a cool concept first when you're coming up with stuff?
Everything comes up with a concept first.
And then you figure out how to do it in the end.
And then you work through how you're going to make this work in paintball. I mean, look at the progression of helicopters from a piece of PVC pipe with a wooden cutout helicopter and a 15-foot rope on it to the backpacks now. With the lighter ropes and sometimes 3D turreted heads.
Yep. Like at Firefly. Yeah, those were fantastic. They were really neat.
So that's just how much that advanced just as its own entity from concept to where we're at now with it. It's been a transitional period. And once you get it down, you can start working with the formulas. How do I add a door gunner? Can they fight air to air?
Can I fire a sniper rifle off of a helicopter?
Exactly.
Yes. Can I fire a rocket off of a helicopter?
And now you're developing different kinds of helicopters that can be bought in the game. You can go with just a scout helicopter, air to air you can do, but nothing else. Or you can have one with a door gunner on it, or you can have a troop carrier.
No, I really think I do. When I asked you this question about breaking into a scenario, and you said that knowing the rules is important. I think another important thing to have in a scenario toolbox, if you will, is an inquisitive mind to want to ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, just doing it to see if it can be done can cause you some problems that maybe you don't want to have. It's always, if you've got a question about the rule, go speak to the game director before the game even starts. If you're reading the rules and you see this and you don't understand it, go talk to a game director. Go talk to one of your older teammates that knows how to play the stuff. If you're by yourself.
Well, there's plenty of even retired scenario players on Facebook that you could reach out to and you ask questions. I guess that really is a good. Every producer really I've ever met is approachable as a person, and they want to answer your questions. Have you ever met a dick scenario producer who that was like their personality and they couldn't figure out why it wasn't working for them or something?
No comment.
Yeah. Almost got you on that one, Bobby. No. Would you rather have 1,000 players at an event of yours who don't care to play the scenario, or 150 dedicated scenario players?
I'd definitely rather have 150 dedicated scenario players.
I am in agreement on that one. What is the importance of props, good props in a game?
It adds to the storyline. When you're fighting over something, you want something tangible to get your hands on. Okay? And even in the AR stuff, completing a puzzle to set up a circuit to turn the lights on out on the field. When you're doing things, it gives you an instant reward. Whether you're picking up a bar of gold off the ground or whether you're solving that puzzle in the AR, you're getting a positive. You're getting something for your effort.
Well, I would say that we saw a lot of that this weekend. Everybody who brought back something, they were excited to be doing it and scanning it and feeling like they were accomplishing something outside of someone taking the prop from you at the command shack and saying, great, you just scored us some points. They actually got to see that it scored them points.
Right.
And it was enjoyable that way. What advice would you give to someone wanting to produce their own events?
Do your friggin' homework. Go play a bunch of different games from a bunch of different producers. It's nothing different than the habits and the things that your mom and dad would teach you when you grow up. Some of them you hang on to, some of them you go, yeah, no, not so much. And you toss them to the side. You do the same thing. You go see a scenario game. You play a scenario game. You go to different producers. People used to travel all over the country to go to scenario games. Now, it's not within 100 miles. I'm not interested, unless it's somebody dedicated who's going to come and play because it's the only place you can get it.
780 kilometers one way.
900 miles.
900 miles.
And I didn't even play.
Well, coming here is amazing. Sherwood is by far top tier paintball fields around the world, in my opinion.
I haven't been to too many fields outside of the United States, but I've never seen a place like this. I've never seen anything that can come anywhere near.
I said this to Joe, like he has the proper eye for it. Like I think it's an art form when it comes to making stick bunkers and wood bunkers and the way he forms everything and builds those arches. It's an eye for it, and he's amazing at
it. Many years ago, when we were doing MXS games here, out in the area in the center of the field where all those bunkers are, it was nothing but a great big open field, with a great big ass huge pile of logs on top of it that we had to rope off so nobody would get hurt. Had a little dead box sitting right there on the corner by where the pipeline comes up and then it opens up into the field. And we used that for an on-field rep station. And the only building on this field was the castle.
It was just a woods ball field all the way.
It was. Oh no, it wasn't. Bunkers? It wasn't just woods ball. I mean, you had Seven Sisters, which was. It was an area that was cleared out. There were some brambles, there were some briars, but there were 7 trees, like these trees.
Yep.
But they were huge trees, fat boy trees. Okay. You and I could both hide behind one. Okay.
Is that about my weight, Puppy?
Hey, dude. Hey,
I put a couple on since you last saw me. I will admit that.
Own it. Just own
I will.
There's no shame.
I know I'll probably have another taco after I get home today.
Probably. Or a burrito.
That will be. I had Taco Bell last night, and then I had that burrito today for the burrito.
Have another burrito.
I'm gonna have a couple more burritos and then pretend that I'm thin still in my youth.
But back then, when he first built the castle for us for the scenarios, Joe walked me through the entire field and he said, "This is what I want to do." And he said his concept was when you came through the center of that net, you were stepping into like 11th century England.
He said that because I made this point to him when I interviewed him is that I felt like I'm looking at straight out of a storybook. It's the Robin Hood Sherwood Forest storybook. You round a corner and there's just this picturesque little tunnel and all this stuff, and then you're walking through and you're like, wait a minute, did I just turn around? It's not easy to have me lose sense of direction. I'm very good at that. Out there, it can be very difficult, and I don't know how he achieves it. It's like it's a magical like back acre out there.
This is what you got to think about, Joe. Joe has always told me that he liked all the fields that he played at, but there was none of them that just hit him as this. So he decided that he was going to build a field for people to play that he wanted to play too. Before anything else, Joe is a player. I mean, I can't even go on to tell you how much respect I've got for him. He played in tournaments. Big name around here back in the 90s as far as tournament play. He started doing some tournaments out here when it first came to be, and he broke into scenarios, and he really loved the scenario, and he built all these things that he wanted to play with. And that's how he decided whether or not I should build it. And he built everything out of railroad ties or trees that had been blown over or knocked down, repurposed them right back in to the field. And it's just amazing how it all just comes together in one fell swoop. It's like, Yes, I can go play a medieval night game here. I can walk into the field and I'm Lord Archibald Fitzgibbons or something, because the atmosphere is just there. And during the night games, when the entire field is lit by torches,
It is an insane sight. It is. It really does get like, as I was saying. I was out there last night with a flashlight trying to find those signs,
right?
and it is spooky too. It gets to you. It's a spooky place. Shadows in there that you turn around too quick and go, what is that over there? You hear a snap in the woods. That's why the night play here is fantastic too, because it's often enough. Sometimes you go to a paintball field and you feel like all the animals have abandoned it or something, or the life has abandoned it. But this place still feels very alive.
It is very much so. We came out. I got here Thursday, and Joe and I went out for a ride around the back 40, and we jumped 7 deer.
Yep.
I mean, baby deers too. Couple of big mamas, bunch of babies. Not a buck in sight, but hey, where there's babies, there's bucks.
I had a moment like that at Firefly, actually, when I had came around the field when we were stationed at the North Base, and I came around the field. It was right at dusk of Saturday, and I was on the far side, and I heard a crack, and I turned around ready to go, and it was just deer coming out, and it was walking, and then it stopped, and it did the deer in the headlights look at me, and then it tore away. But I went, you don't see that too often sometimes on a paintball field, even though that had the approximately 2 woods. You think it is, but it just feels so alive. I don't know how he maybe just because of the space of the field, or just the way it is, but the magical place.
Yeah, like I said, I can't compare this to anywhere else. For a while there, it was the EMR guys. Mike, I mean, EMR was brilliant in its day. It was brilliant. And I think that inspired Joe to try to go better.
Well, we all need competition.
Yeah. And Mike's been out here several times, and he absolutely loves it. Mike's field is a gas to play too.
I've been a few times.
So much over the last 25 years. It's changed so much.
I had just gotten my license. I got a license, and we used to take the car trip. It was 4 hours. We'd cross over at Buffalo and run down to Pennsylvania, and cross right in there to New Milford. And we'd be there for the weekend, and we'd have a blast.
Oh yeah.
They have a yearly pump game that we'd go to. I was the captain of a pump team called Pump Till It Hurts.
Okay.
You can tell that's a teenage joke.
Yeah.
About one thing or another. But it was a great field to play. I haven't been back in years myself, but I have very fond memories of that from my teenage years. Now, circling back to what I wanted to touch on was, what do you remember of the Mansfield game? What was the storyline? Do you recall, like, an idea?
Yeah, the storyline was basically, of course, in the future, and for sport on TV, they would have death matches between prisons. So they'd pile all the prisoners into 2 different sides of this building, and whoever was left at the end was the winners. And they maybe got a couple years knocked off their 3 life sentences. So it was that.
I think Wayne Dog was onto something. I'm just saying, like,
yeah, it was pretty cool game. Amazing facility to play. My team and I stayed overnight inside the dormitory, which is connected to the main cell. And every one of us that was there will tell you the same thing. The freaking place is haunted.
Yeah, no, I imagine so. I imagine so. Some of the things that probably went on there, it's probably they say the angry spirits like to stay, or the ones that couldn't find their way.
We went down into the solitary area, and down there they used to have wood stoves to keep cells warm. Everybody had a little hot belly morning stove and some wood to keep warm, and if you didn't get any wood. But to that day when we went down there, we took our midnight stroll. We had a full run. I swear to God, you could smell wood. And it hadn't been burnt there for many decades. And there was nothing in the cells fucking burned. They weren't even there. At the one end, there was a row of toilets stacked up 3 high. And I guess that's all the toilets that were actually in the place to begin with. But we found the library, forms for parole. I mean, some of
the paperwork that got mysteriously lost behind.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff we were finding there, just walking around where we were going to be playing at, was amazing. There was so much paint thrown at that game. There was of course, all the floors are concrete, but there was a doorway that was probably at least 45 feet wide, 50 feet wide, and players would take a running start, drop to their knees, and slide all the way across the other side, shooting as they were going, and then somebody on the other side was catching them because there was so much paint on the floor.
Wow. Now, do you remember any aspects of who was commanding that
game? Spiro was our commander. I know the other commander's name, but at this point right now, I just simply cannot think.
Who ended up winning
Chad.
That Chad?
Yeah, he was the other commander. Rob Rubin played that game. Yeah, he played that game. He and I introduced him into the role playing aspect because he got a role card. He said, "Well, I'm supposed to be this meek mouthed little goofball guy that thinks he's a cat and this, that, and the other." And through him, we were able to sell them fake gas masks, and he made them literally go off site, get him a little carton of milk, bring it back, and pour it in a bowl for him so he could drink it before he would make the deal to sell them the fake gas masks.
If ever there was a scummy scenario move, that man told that right up.
Rob played that to the hilt. He's a character.
Now,
no, I didn't.
No, I always enjoyed him. I don't think he ever got enough credit for even the videos that he made.
No, he didn't.
I thought they were very informative. Chances are there are plenty of things that I probably picked up from those videos in my teenage years before we even had a YouTube. There was Webdog Radio,
right?
And just a couple of those. Even his review of he went to it was a vampire versus Lycan game. I think it was a
Viper game down in Texas.
It might have been. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I remember that, and I do take a lot of inspiration from certain creators and things like that. As I said before, the Splat Attack video, I got that out of a bargain bin in Canada at what we used to call Zellers.
That's amazing.
Just in the bottom. I was looking for other movies, and I already was a paintball player, and I went, oh my God, the Shatter game, the DVD, and I picked it up. I'm talking, it was $5, but I watched it. I think I watched it 4 times in one day because it was just so interesting to watch it and the way it unfolded and the way to be able to properly cut a narrative from an event. And a lot of stuff that Tiger did followed that. Like it had a narrative to it. It had that kind of thing. Now, in terms of the game, how was it set up? Were there missions in Mansfield, or was it?
Oh yeah, there was always capture missions. Get to this point on this particular cell on this particular level to get this particular thing to bring it back.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was firefights on the decks. Down the hallways. They literally sometimes were fighting cell to cell.
Now I heard about this that there was no bunkers built, so they were just tossing things out of cells. They used whatever they could, just kind of pushing it in the way, and that happened. So was anything set up before the game, or during the game starts and like toss this mattress out into So it just all happened
Yeah, I mean,
spontaneously.
not every cell had something in it. A couple cells had some mattresses. A couple of guys got smart enough to snatch them up, drop them down in front, and while they would push, people behind them would shoot around the sides or shoot through the center between two mattresses.
So you're saying riot shields aren't a new thing that people got pissed off about?
Shields have been around for so long; it's not funny. We made so much fun of them that people just stopped carrying them. It's like this is the only way you can get here. Yep. It's like okay. I mean, and it's cool if you want to play with shields and stuff. Play with shields. I don't care. Will I play a game that has shields in it? Probably.
No, I don't mind them at all as long as there's some rules for them or how they get eliminated or this or that with the rockets or anything extra.
Well, we always had a special way to take care of characters like this. Yeah, invincible characters, but they can't see you. They can't shoot you.
Yes.
Don't waste time shooting them because you can shoot them in the face.
Yeah, well, I will point out that like even today, I was like, guys, anytime you could get hit him in the hands, hit him in the neck. It's completely legal to do. Out on this morning is what I said to some people. I said, if we can get a couple of their guys to sit for 20 minutes, half an hour, because they went, oh, that one's a little smart, I'm going off. They get a little demoralized by it before they come back on the field. Hey, it will save us an extra person on the field.
Some people get amped up about that.
Yeah.
I know who it was. I am going to get you, you son of a bitch. And he'll spend the rest of the game hunting that person.
They'll completely drop any idea of missions, anything else to hunt that person. There's often times that even I as a player on the field know in a game where I don't have to command or this or that, there are times I go, if I just attract all the aggro in this situation to me, I can get 30, 40 people trying to kill me. That'll give the rest of this team time to do what they need to do.
Well, yeah.
And I can take the beating for the team.
Yeah.
And it really is something that people need to wonder about sometimes. Because people look at me and go, you're an asshole. I'm a nice guy. Just dealing with nuts out on the field, of course, right?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with that.
No. If I was driving home right now and I saw you on the side of the road, even somebody I got in an altercation with on the field or something, and they had a flat tire and they needed help, I'm stopping to help them. I'm not the bad guy.
Well, I mean, people need to learn to leave shit at the field, or exit the field and throw the shit out of the car and leave it there.
Well,
because we're all in this for the same thing. We like to play. It's our sport. We'll police ourselves, and eventually, maybe we'll get to the point where we don't have to deal with the assholes. And I'm not naming any, so don't ask me. You're not an asshole. You're just full-blown nut.
Well, I think it really does come down to the understanding that, like, a lot of us come out and we want to put down when we get to the field, we want to put down our life and pick up this, right? And I'm going to carry it for the weekend, and then I'm going to put it back down, and I'm going to go back to my life.
Exactly.
It's my break away from all of this. Did that game end in a kind of different way? The storyline at Mansfield.
Yeah, it most certainly did. Wayne, we decided that we built a truce between the two generals, and what we were going to do is at 5 minutes to the end of the game, everybody was going to charge into the rotunda area, which is where all the cell blocks literally connected. Yep. There was a big opener. We were all going to rush into that area. We were going to kidnap the warden, Wayne Dollick, and drag him out and execute him. So a couple of the guys on my team, when everything came together, it was like 3 or 4 guys from my team, and then Mike, and somebody else. I don't know. Maybe it was sure. Anyway, They broke into the command center, which was a plexiglass room. It was like a day watch room. They broke in there. They snatched him up, threw a set of goggles on him, and dragged him out into the middle of the thing and put him down on his knees.
I think hopefully I can find the photo of this, because there's a photo of them dragging him out, famously, that gets passed around.
Yeah.
And they put him on his knees. And now, was there not another part to this? He was yelling something?
Yes, he was trying to get me to fall into the I'm going to be a robot and kill everybody.
Yep.
And so he was like, dude, he was saying code words and stuff, and I'm looking at him, and it's just like, man, I'm so tired of listening to your shit. And I took my little blue cap gun and I put it right to his head, and I pulled the trigger. And it went bang, and he fell down just like he'd been shot.
Dead.
He played dead.
I give him that. Like,
we rolled him over. We put an obscenely huge amount of dynamite on top of him and drug him over to the wall, and everybody backed up, and the game went over, and the demo text blew up the wall, and all the prisoners escaped. Yeah, but Dad went right along with every last lick of it.
I think that's mark of it, especially a storytelling producer. As much as I often hear about ways that the story is much more important than the game per se.
Wow, that's a stumper, because without the story, how do you have the game? I mean, what are you going to do? Roll some dice and say, okay, well, you guys go attack this and you guys go attack that. Why? Well, I rolled the dice. That's where you're supposed to fucking go. Just go.
But there is the dichotomy,
but when you're in a story, if you're going somewhere, you're going there for a reason. And it could be a multiple objective. You might have to go to point A to find out you have to go to point B to find out you have to go to point C to get what you were looking for in the first place.
It's a journey.
Yeah,
which is the story, right? It is,
and it follows the story.
It follows the story, but because there are producers who are like, no, the game is the thing. Let's drop out the story. It's a theme. Let's not worry about what the story of the game is. But my understanding with Wayne was that it was very the story was quite important to an aspect to it. Yes.
Yes, because the story helps you to incorporate the roles. Because when you write the story, you have people in certain parts of it doing certain things. Now, from that, you can create a role for you. Take that character, you take his name, you read the book, see what kind of a person he was. You write a short little paragraph. You hand it off to the player, and the player goes, "Oh, so I'm a dick, right?" Yeah, pretty much.
Bobby, thank you.
Hey, Josh, anytime.
And what I'm saying to you is thank you on behalf of the game for everything you've done for the game.
It's always been about the players. It's the players that make the game.
Well, it's never not noticed. I want to thank you for everything you've done and all the time you've committed and everything you've really achieved and putting the game ahead of everything so that we can just have a lick of fun in our lives.
Well,
so thank you very much for that, sir.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you. Come here.
Come here. Yeah, I'm gonna pull you off the chair. Right off the chair.
All right. Thank you.